Welcome to the Elevated Nonsense Podcast, where we, intrepid weirdos, discuss all the strange things in our universe. Tonight, we have terrifying tales of ghosts from beyond our own world. I am joined by two intrepid storytellers, Sparrow.
Hello. I'm gonna cry. I'm laughing. This is so good. I love it so much, and I'm trying not to laugh so hard that I'm crying.
And Zarria.
Anyways.
Hi.
This was a spur-of-the-moment decision, but apparently it's worked out quite nicely.
This decision was made for Caleb's voice approximately 30 seconds ago.
Oh yeah, completely. I'm glad it entertained.
Oh, it was so good.
I was gonna try to do something that was a little more like, imagine you are in a place between worlds, like the actual Twilight Zone intro.
Yeah.
But I figured, one, it wouldn't work, and two, I wasn't able to improv that quickly enough.
No, that's super fair. Yeah.
But continuing on, we have a couple of things to go over before we begin. So as usual, we have our Patron Shoutout. Once again for the wonderful, awesome, fun, sweet JD.
Woohoo!
Thank you for being our patron, JD. If you want to be a patron, if you want to get exclusive content like uncut episodes, shoutouts at the second tier or above, and more, join us on Patreon for low costs. I promise you it'll be worth it. And
this
of course,
week, just for incentive,
yes.
I was going to say, Caleb just did like 20 minutes of the Mistborn prologue. Very good. So that's the kind of content you can see from our Patreon.
Very, very soon, I will, in fact, begin to actually do audiobook content. I know I've said that probably like 4 other times, but
you're gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And then, honestly, something that might be fun for like all of us to do is scripts, like doing scripted stuff.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Like a radio play almost.
Totally. Just do Twilight Zone episodes.
We could just do Twilight Zone episodes.
That'd be fun. We specifically make up our own about an elevator.
Stop, I love that.
Oh my goodness. That'd be great. Okay, but in any
elevator
case...
zone. I thought about the Twilight elevator, but elevator zone is way better.
Or just the nonsense elevator.
Nonsense elevator sounds like some Wonka shit.
It does, actually. But, of course, we will also talk about our social media. We have to plug. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I believe that's everything. We are also now on YouTube. We have video versions of these episodes now live. Speaking of which, if you're watching right now on YouTube, hi, you watched me wave. So yeah, go watch us on YouTube if you want the hashtag face reveals and be able to just see what we're doing while we record this insanity. Like the Vogue
You don't know
cover.
what I'm doing if you're hearing me make those noises, but if you are watching YouTube, you can see that I am actually doing voguing.
Is it family friendly? Is it not? You'll have to see.
Ooh!
Well, I mean, if it wouldn't be on YouTube.
No. Only our YouTube subscribers will know.
Oh man.
Subscribers, good. So I can do the English good.
Subscribinators.
Oh my god.
Our subs.
Yeah. Submissive inbreedables.
No, stop! It's update to answer Caleb's earlier question. It's not family friendly, apparently.
No, but it's family friendly enough that it can still be on YouTube.
When you pulled out that 3D printed gun,
It
you
looked
held it at
really
an angle.
phallic at first.
It sure looked like a dildo. It sure looked like a dildo.
That would have been perfect timing too.
I was like, where did he just like casually have a dildo in his like? Where the fuck did that come from? No, don't make that noise. All right, so this is about to be another allegedly episode.
Yeah, totally.
It's always when I'm here. I'm sorry.
I have so
For the
many
information of
stories for this one.
viewers and YouTube, this is a 3D print. It is non-functional. It is a prop. And it is based specifically off one of the guns in Red Dead Redemption 2. It is not real.
It's very good for gesturing wildly with, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. You want to see? Friggin' yeehaw. All right. So, Patreon, social media. Come join our Discord. Talk with us.
Yeah, come talk to us.
We need more friends. Always.
Give us some episode suggestions. If you have something you want us to talk about, I can literally hear my dog whining outside.
Yeah,
Stop it.
I
I
heard
heard
that
that
too.
too.
You heard it? God damn. Let me text my roommates and tell them to move her away from my door. That's my dog, Lucy. She's actually my parents' dog. She's our family dog, but my family's on vacation this week, so we're dog sitting for them.
It's okay.
Yeah, she's a good girl.
Lucy and Allie look so similar.
I know. Well, I think part of it is that, like, we know Lucy has a specific dog breed. We're pretty sure she has a specific breed, which is Carolina dog. And we know Allie also has a significant amount of hound in her. And those breeds tend to, like, it's the same thing, like hound, Carolina dog, etc. So we think it's a very dominant gene, so which is why they look very similar, because I think it's the same lineage. But let me text my roommates and tell her to
Do your thing.
Lucy away from my door.
I keep looking down the barrel
is
of this
getting-
prop. Don't look down the barrel of a real gun, everybody. I'm only looking down the barrel of this one because it is safe to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're an extremely well-trained weapon master.
Weapon master.
Even then.
And even
accidents
then.
happen.
I'm a level
Yeah, even
75
then. Looking at
weapon
you,
master.
Alec Baldwin.
Alec
Look at
Baldwin.
you.
So yeah, social media. Join us on Discord. Do all the stuff. Thank you to our patrons. Join the Patreon. Buy our merch. That's the other thing. Redbubble. We have merch. Including a new design that we added a couple of weeks ago. Based on one of Ian's dreams from the Dreams and Nightmares episode. Which has to do with whales and feet fetishes. A couple other versions will be coming around too. Oh yeah, the mouse pad. Merch. I need to get the merch.
I'm
at
also
some
planning
point
on
soon.
when I actually have some time to like breathe between, you know, streaming, my job, podcast, my other job, and my other job. I'm planning on doing some more merch designs based on some of the very well landed kind of inside jokes from the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm very excited about
Please.
that. Poff and Papa.
Poff and Papa.
Got two different ideas for that.
Nice. I'm excited for
Very
that.
excited. Yeah. Yeah. They're very different, but I think they'll both work really well.
Get the version you want.
Oh my God. That's a good point.
We can just put them all up, even if they're
Yeah.
limited run.
Yeah.
But today's episode, now we should actually get into it, is on the topic of paranormal experiences and ghost stories.
Whoa.
It's practically been since like the first episode that we last talked about stuff like this.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Zarria has been itching to do this episode for a long time, and I can't blame her. We just haven't gotten to it until now. So
I've been wanting to do this so bad since we first came up with the idea in like the first episode we did.
Episode.
Well, and it kind of works out that we only have the three of us for this, because Zarria, it means that you actually have a little bit more like airtime, because we don't have to
True.
cycle through like five of us, which is
Yeah.
great.
Very
And I
true.
have a lot of stories.
I'm so stoked.
So, of course, I will be hosting for today's episode, and to begin, the way we're going to work today's episode is basically, like, each of us shares a story until we get to, like, 5 each or something like that, depending on how long they are, of course.
I don't have that many stories.
We'll see how it
you know
works
what?
out.
I can lie.
We will see
I'll
how
make
it works
stuff
out. Either way, we will share them in succession. And to start things out, I will share some haunted places from nearby where I was about to say Sparrow and I live, but near where Zarria
Surprise, guys!
and I
I've
live.
actually been secretly Canadian the whole time.
Specifically in my city, which is like, hey.
Yeah, fun fact, I've been secretly Canadian the whole time, and Zarria is actually from the southeast United States.
Yes.
Totally, sure.
Got him!
So, this article actually comes from CBC, and goes over some of the ghost stories in Edmonton. So, first up on the list is a little bit about, like a tiny bit about, the Walterdale Playhouse and Walt the Wraith.
That's such a, like, you hear the word wraith, and the first thing that comes to mind for me is, like, the Nazgul from Lord of the Rings.
True.
Imagine the king of the Nazgul named Walt.
Hi there, my name's Walt.
I'm gonna stab you with a very bad knife. It's a very bad knife. And hello, my name is Walt.
It will infect you with necrotic poison.
This is Walt's knife, and it's gonna be a bad time for everyone.
Instead of the Morgul blade, it's just the Walt blade.
Walt blade. Yeah. Little known fact about Walt Disney, he was in fact king of the Nazgul. So, you know, that's why he's been cryogenically frozen.
To assist whenever Sauron decides to come back.
A disclaimer
Again.
for Disney, if you are listening, hi, please don't sue us. We know he's not. We know he hasn't been cryogenically frozen.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, this century-old building, which served as a fire hall until the early 1950s, is said to be haunted by a resident ghost named Walt. Legend has it.
Caleb, is that hall H-A-U-L or H-A-L-L?
H-A-L-L.
What is a fire hall?
It's the hall,
fire
the place
station?
where the fire department
Just like a
is.
fire station? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I'm surprised you haven't heard that before.
I've never heard that term. I think we just call them like fire stations. So
I don't know if it has anything to do with Canada versus US, but
who knows?
I think it's probably a regional thing.
Yeah, it might be a
could
regional
be.
thing.
Yeah. Either way, though, a fire department. It is said to be haunted by a resident ghost named Walt. Legend has it that the specter was once one of the building's first firefighters and died inside in 1910. The hoofbeats of horses and the dank smell of manure will sometimes envelop the halls, in tandem with the mysterious clanging of a ringing bell.
What's up? My name's Walt the Wraith. What's dank in here, bro? I'm gonna stab you with a nasty Wargle blade. 420, blaze it.
Bro, have you ever had this strain of weed? It makes you feel freaking ethereal, bro.
He's actually not a
God.
wraith. He's just 100-year-old stoner.
But still speaks in a transatlantic accent, too.
Oh, I mean, he's a stoner. Of course he does.
It's not... No, transatlantic is like the radio accent from the
No,
30s to
I know.
50s.
You get high enough, anyone will talk in a transatlantic accent.
Okay, I've never been high before,
my name's
so
Walt.
I understand. It's actually not that accurate an accent to the area, though. We're a little... We got a bit of a unique accent around here. Oh, you going out for a dart there, eh, bud?
Jesus Christ. I have to go.
I can't
I'm
do
holding
the
down the fort for all
stereotypical Canadian
Americans.
accent.
Oh, no, that's
I'm
all
holding
right.
down the fort for all Americans. Do I have to go into my southern accent? Because it's something.
I mean, you could. I would. I'd follow it up with an Arthur Morgan or a John Marston.
Jesus Christ. Oh, no. I won't then.
You're dumb as a box of rocks.
I say, boys, about
No.
as sharp as a bowling ball.
Not
I
Foghorn
know that's
Leghorn.
Foghorn Leghorn. I know that's Foghorn Leghorn. It's still very funny.
I'll say. Okay,
Oh my God.
which of you two would like to go first with your personal stories? That's all
I
we
would.
have.
I was
going to
say Zarria should go first because then we
I
can
would.
kind of like she
Okay,
can start and then I
okay.
can go and then she can do another one and then you can go and then she can do another one so we can like sandwich them out.
Pretty much.
I thought of another one, actually.
Excellent. We should
my
do a bonus
goodness.
exclusive one where it's just Zarria doing ghost stories with like. I can't decide if it would be funnier if it was actual creepy music playing in the background or just one of us softly going. Whoa!
I think it would be far funnier if it was just one of us going,
It's just one of us, whoa! Just like in the back, like a hype guy, just like whoa. Spooky.
Okay, sorry.
that'll
what
be
you
a
got?
Patreon exclusive. Anyway,
Yeah,
I
YouTube
think
subscribers, you're welcome.
I think I am going to go in chronological order from like when I was extremely little to like now. So,
Hell yeah.
the first one I actually don't remember because I was too little. So the
Then how are you
first
telling
one,
the story?
I've heard it enough. So I was probably around like 1.5, 2-ish. And, I was sitting in my high chair in the kitchen and, all of a sudden the stove just starts going absolutely crazy, beeping like crazy. Any lights on like the stove were like flashing and stuff like that. And all of a sudden I start saying, "Grandma." And I didn't.
Were you already speaking at that age, or was this like your
I
first
was
word?
speaking at 7 months.
Okay,
Full,
cool. I was
full
like,
sentences at 7 months. Anyway, so yes,
Imagine
I
if that
was
your first time speaking.
No. So anyway, all of a sudden I start saying "grandma," and I didn't know the word grandma. Like, my grandma on my mom's side was Baba, and my grandma on my dad's side was Granny. So I didn't know the word grandma. I had never heard it before. I had never used it before. And all of a sudden I start saying grandma. And my parents are trying to figure out, like, what's going on with the stove and
And the baby. And
why all of a sudden the baby is saying grandma when she doesn't know the word. She's never heard it. 'Cause yeah, that was far before I had access to like TV or anything like that, and I could not read. Well, I was far too young to read, but so there was no place I could have possibly picked up the word. Anyway, the very next day, my parents get a call from one of our relatives saying great grandma died yesterday.
Uh-oh.
And
was it in the fire? Because that would be like with the stove, that would be spooky as hell.
Yeah.
It's already very spooky, but oh my
was
god.
obsessed with cooking, and she had only ever seen stoves that had like knobs on them, and that stove had buttons. And so she had never seen a stove with buttons before. So we think that when she came to like see us one last time and say goodbye, she noticed our stove and started playing around with it.
What the fuck is that? That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wow.
That's wow. That's just like I'm trying to like wrap my head around that. That's so crazy.
That's not my craziest one.
Oh no,
I
I'm
know,
sure it isn't.
which is the
but,
wild thing.
even that was a solid start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caleb, do you want to go next or do you want me to go next?
You go next.
Cool. I think I'm going to save my best one for the last one that I do because it's very funny. It's also a little bit longer than the other ones. So I guess we'll start with this one. I did my study abroad in college in London in the fall of 2016.
London.
I did I was in London, babes. We can do brunch with some mimosas. That's Essex, but you know.
I mean, that just made me think of my Doctor Who days. That sounded like Rose
That's
Tyler's
fair.
mom.
Little bit, yeah, no, very Essex accent. But yeah, no, I did the semester program at Lambda, which is the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. It's where Benedict Cumberbatch trained. It's where Jim Broadbent trained, Richard Armitage. It's one of the two big schools, the other one being RADA, Royal Academy, which is like Alan Rickman, et cetera, et cetera. So big school. They have really cool programs, and as part of that, we got to do some really cool day and weekend trips. So like we went to like Stratford to do Shakespeare stuff, and one of the trips we did was to Hampton Court Palace, which is for those of you who don't know, Hampton Court Palace is the historic seat of the monarchy before they moved into Buckingham Palace. It's where the Tudor dynasty ruled from, so Henry VIII, Mary, Edward, Elizabeth I, that whole group ruled from primarily Hampton Court Palace.
Wow.
And it's really cool. It's like a trip up the Thames. It's gorgeous, beautifully preserved. They have a bunch of like character actors, all sorts of stuff, in the full garb. And one of the really interesting things, it's haunted as hell, obviously.
Yeah,
it's
I would imagine.
Yeah. One of the better known ghosts is actually the ghost of Catherine Parr, Henry VIII's fifth wife, who was one of the beheaded ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of the beheaded ones. She was very, very, very young. Not like a minor, but, very young and naive when
I
she
wouldn't
was
have been surprised in that time, but...
I mean, yeah, honestly, yeah. But, very beautiful, very young, very naive when she was kind of singled out by Henry for marriage. And she was eventually beheaded for rumors that she was cheating on him. And the ghost part of this is that there's this one specific hallway in the palace where if you're there alone, and it primarily happens, she primarily kind of shows herself to young women. And I was there with a group of three of my close study abroad friends, and it was weirdly enough, no one else was in the hallway. It was just the four of us. You don't really see her, but there is a draft of cold air that blew through the hallway with a very faint sound of a young woman screaming.
Oh.
And it's supposed to be the kind of ghost memory of her fleeing from the guards that were arresting her before her execution. It's really intense. And I think it's really interesting too, just looking at some paranormal experiences and situations of just there are absolutely situations where, with Zarria's last story, where it's clear that the soul has, or, whatever you believe in, the soul has consciously visited someone, versus this particular incident, which seems to be almost like a fingerprint of almost like a photo negative.
Yeah.
It's a paranormal memory rather than a conscious ghost. That was spooky as hell.
It makes me think completely disconnected, but in Jedi Fallen Order, the awesome Star Wars game, Cal, the main character, is able to touch certain objects that have signatures in the Force in them, and is able to
they've
pick
got
up memories
stored
from
memory
them.
Almost. Yeah, they have energy signatures.
Exactly.
But that's basically what a lot of the ghosts that are tied in, as far as my research goes, a lot of ghosts that are tied to locations tend to be these kind of paranormal memories of it's not actually a conscious spirit doing anything. It's this place had such emotional, spiritual weight to that person that something stayed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was spooky as hell. We all felt this cold rush of air, and it was in the middle of September, so it's not it was cold. It was wild.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
That's my that's kind of the most recent paranormal experience I think I've had. So it's not. I lied. I have another one, but that'll be later.
That's a fun one though.
Yeah, spooky little historic Catherine Parr ghost.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, bud. All right.
Oh yeah.
I'll go over another one of these locations here. The Gibbard Block and the Boiler Room Butcher. I have no idea what any of these places are, but
I want
because
to be known as the butcher of something. That's dope as hell.
just be Geralt in The Witcher and be the
That's
butcher
fair.
of Blaviken.
I'm so excited. I'm starting to play that next week.
Oh, how about that?
I'm real excited.
Okay, so in the basement of this 1912 apartment building, you'll find an ancient creaking furnace, doors open, its black innards caked with ash and rust. The perfect place to dispose of a corpse. And that is apparently what happened at the turn of the century, when a young woman's body was dragged down to the basement and heaved into the incinerator by her murderous husband, a former caretaker of the old rooming house. The bride still haunts the rooms, and it's said she has made her presence known to many guests, often with a sickening thudding upon the staircase. Ooh.
That's really spooky.
Yeah, that one would actually be like... I don't really play horror games, but in horror games or media, when someone is trapped somewhere, or like there are like paranormal imprints, for example, of someone who is trapped or that sort of thing, oh, that gets me. Or like, do either of you know PT? I asked this in the first episode.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
So
It
I also
was-
listened in the first episode, so
Yeah.
you know. How dare
PT
you.
stands for Playable Trailer. It was a demo for an upcoming Silent Hill game that was then scrapped, unfortunately, because of when Hideo Kojima split from Konami. But it is still held as one of the most impressive pieces of horror gaming ever.
Really cool.
And it's kind of rare nowadays because PS4s were patched so that was no longer available on the PlayStation Store and would be deleted from your console as well. So any console that has not been updated and still has PT on it are highly sought after collector's items. But
That's crazy.
it's a freaky game. It revolves around you taking laps through this same section of hallway in a house, with the radio next to you, spouting news reports of how someone killed their wife and child in that house. And then after a little while, you start seeing a woman in a nightgown with like a bloodied neck and, you know, the usual stuff. And then in another spot...
Ah, yes, the usual ghost. Yeah.
Yeah, in another spot, disgustingly, there is a... trigger warning here, by the way. There is a not fully developed baby body in the bathroom sink.
Gross.
And it cries in
Gross!
some moments in the game. It's horrible.
I remember that scene in the 7th Harry Potter book.
That one was under a train station bench, though.
Close enough. It's fine.
And it was a lot bigger. Like, that was a toddler-sized...
Semantics.
I will always point out semantics. But yeah, something about that story made me think a little bit about that for some reason.
I think it's just like, obviously paranormal memory, but also there's a really kind of specific melancholy that at least I experience when hearing about ghost stories about women and children, just because they are so often victims of extreme and usually domestic violence.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons genuinely I don't really like horror movies, is because especially the genre is starting to move away from it, but a lot of classic horror movies are incredibly misogynistic.
Yeah.
They're so sexist. They target women aggressively so, you know, to the point where, you know, you get the tropes of the first girl to die and the last girl standing. The virgin, the whore, you see all of that. A lot of the genre is just horrifically misogynistic. And I think that, for me at least, bleeds over into ghost stories involving women and children, just because, again, 99% of the time, it's they were killed at the hands of a man that they trusted,
Yep.
or they are, young mothers looking for their deceased children, or they are children looking for their mothers. Like, it's always a familial thing for the most part.
And as a parent of a child, oh boy, they hit different now.
It's rough, yeah.
Oh boy. Any media lately that has shown a parent trying to either find, protect, or save their child has really gotten me lately.
Yeah.
But anyway, we will continue on to Zarria's next story.
Hell yes.
This next one is a really good one.
Is it doozy?
When I was little, anytime we would pass like a river or anything like that, I would always tell my parents, rivers are bad. And I seemed to have almost like these memories.
You got drowned in a previous life, didn't you? That's where this is going, isn't it?
So I used to tell my parents about how I would play with my older brother and sister. But I'm my parents' eldest child. They didn't have any children before me that passed. My mom never had any miscarriages before she had me, to my knowledge. I'm the eldest child, but I would tell my parents about my older brother and sister. And so when I was little, sometimes they would see me like playing with someone that wasn't there, stuff like that. And I would always, it was from around probably ages like 2 to around like 5 that I saw them. One of the times I was in like the tub and I was playing with these beings that weren't there. And my parents said they saw my head just snap towards the wall. And at that moment, I just started freaking out. And they think that one of the spirits that I saw when I was young went through the wall. And previous to that, they don't think it had ever occurred to me that they weren't actually there. That they weren't actually physical,
so that would have
real
freaked you
people.
out.
And as soon as I saw them go through the wall, that's when it hit that they were
incorporeal.
Weren't physical.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not real. Oh no.
And that freaked me out. And they said I never wanted out of the tub so bad before in my life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I used to have these memories of going to a river with my older brother and sister, and somehow getting separated from them and drowning. I was probably only maybe like 4 or 5 in these memories, except of course like these things never happened. Because I don't have an older brother, sister. I had never been to a river before. Well, at least not up close. Like, on overpasses and whatever, sure. But not, like, actually on the beach. Like, on the riverbank, you know? And when I was really little, I used to tell... When I would go to sleep... in the mornings when I woke up, I would tell my parents about my older brother and sister took me to like this place, and I would describe the places that I told them that they took me to in far too much detail for a very small child to know, especially a child that cannot read and does not have access to TV.
Yeah.
So I would know details about these places that there's absolutely no way I could have known unless I was there. So Mom Mom thought that when I was going to sleep, that these two spirits would pull me out of my body and take me to these places, like astral projection, but forced astral projection, you know? Like, I'm not the one that's actually...
You're not at the steering wheel, yeah.
I'm not the one that's actually, like, pulling myself out of my body. I'm just being pulled along by these two spirits. But they were always, they never did anything to show that they were malicious or bad in any way. So, my parents weren't worried about it, you know? So, yeah, throughout when I was maybe like 2 to around 5, I saw these two spirits. And, we think that, they were like my older brother and sister from my past life that I remembered, that when I was reborn, they loved me so much that they wanted to come and check on me and to make sure that I was doing okay. And, just spend some more time with me that they didn't get because I died so young.
Wow. That's
wild.
That is quite a story.
That's really crazy.
Oh, man.
I don't know
Stuff
if
like
that
is
was
so interesting
like...
to think about.
Yeah. I actually...
It's like, who were we in past lives? But that's crazy. Damn.
It's an especially interesting concept for me to think about, because I, as many of our listeners and you two will already know, am a pretty traditionally monotheistic Christian guy.
I was going to say, Mormons don't really believe in, like, reincarnation.
No, reincarnation is definitely not part of our thing.
It's just traditional kingdom of heaven, that kind of stuff, right?
More or less, yeah. There are certain intricacies to it, but for all intents and purposes, yes. And then...
You know, your basic Christianity.
You got your usual
basic,
stuff.
And then you just add other things into it.
But it's... I don't know, paranormal stories are always interesting to me, because, like, I had a personal one that I could share, or it's not firsthand. So when I lived in Japan, obviously I was over there volunteering with my church, and so one of the guys that I had bunked with for one of the nights told me and a couple of other guys a story about basically an exorcism that they had to perform. And,
holy shit.
You know, say what you will about exorcisms and those sorts of things, but he had no reason to lie to me or anything like that, and it's whatever he experienced. But I refrained from sharing that one because it's a little, like, specific to understanding at least terminology from my particular faith. So it would kind of, I don't want to say it would go over most people's heads, but I don't think it would connect in the way that it did for me.
It might be a little too niche. That's fair. That's fair.
But either way, the story itself was crazy. To share a couple of small points from it, there was a young woman that a couple of the guys were seeing, teaching lessons and stuff. And at some point, they just ended up not seeing her anymore. But then one of her friends, I think it might have actually been her romantic partner, called up the missionaries and said, hey, you need to come see my friend or partner or whatever they were at that point right now. Something is wrong. Turned out that the young woman had been self-medicating almost to the point of unaliving. And there were a lot of other things going on too, including that the young woman told the two guys, after all was said and done, that she was seeing and hearing a person next to her saying, like, these people are not your friends, they're not here to help you, they are here to kill you, you should kill them before they kill you. Yeah, it was quite the story to be telling past 10 p.m.
Yeah.
There's kind of a phrase that I relate to that, like, creepy stuff immediately gets creepier after 10 p.m.
Oh, 100%. If I do horror movies, it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, seriously.
Immediately followed by like a rom-com.
Yeah,
Me too.
Totally.
What I will say, though, is if you are self-medicating, if you take enough drugs, you are going to have a ghost experience.
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
seriously.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
You, like, no way around it. You take enough drugs, doesn't matter what drug. You take enough, you are going to have a paranormal experience.
You know, if you don't keel
and you
over.
probably do need to get exercise. But, like, you know.
But more
that's
like
crazy.
like
Yeah.
a digestive sense than a spiritual
fair.
sense.
Yeah, that's wild.
Oh my
well, and
goodness.
it's like I know a couple of people. I have a couple of people in my life that they actually had neurodivergencies triggered by like bad trips. Like I know someone who like had a really bad LSD trip and it triggered latent bipolar in her.
Really interesting.
Yeah, she like didn't know she had it. It had never like she'd never like had any episodes or anything like that. She had a family history of it. But she basically got stuck in like a month-long trip and it triggered her bipolar disorder. It was crazy.
Me being in the
but that
culture
would
shock
hella
of
be-
Japan, that triggered
Yeah.
my latent depression and anxiety.
You know, it's gonna do. Yeah, the pandemic did it for me.
Yeah,
So you know,
exactly. We all got something.
we all got something.
But okay, so right, Zarria just told her story about older siblings in past lives. Okay.
Yeah, and it feels almost weird talking about it because it brings up these feelings of like missing them.
Mm-hmm. Like
But-
a nostalgia.
But I never knew them in this
There's
life,
there's
except
like a
for the
word for,
experiences I had.
That is really
When I was
interesting.
younger.
Yeah.
There's like a
with them.
word for having nostalgia for something you never
There
experienced.
is. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it's from German or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like missing something,
You
but
know,
you never experienced
it's one of those
that
diagrams
thing.
that would have been posted on Tumblr and then circulated
100%.
everywhere else.
like superimposed on like a misty forest or
Yeah,
something like
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's really cool though.
Oh
Zarria.
yeah, super fascinating. What you got, Sparrow? What's up next?
Okay. Well, let's do the owl incident. So,
The owl
I
incident.
am.
That sounds like a
The owl
creepypasta
incident.
title.
Yeah, the owl incident. So, I am kind of generally, I'm a cultural Episcopalian. I was raised in the Episcopal Church, Diet Catholic. All of the pomp and none of the circumstance.
I honestly know nothing about Episcopalians.
We sing a lot,
Episcopalianism?
and we use real wine for communion, so which is great. And like my church specifically uses like port, so it's like good shit.
You just use water.
We're really chill. Episcopalians generally are, it's basically the American version of the Anglican Church.
Okay.
It's really chill. Very, very much so. I like to say culturally Christian because I personally don't necessarily believe in Big Sky Dad, but I love my church and fuck me up with some Christmas. Hell yeah.
Sure.
But I personally do a little bit more. I practice. I don't like to call it like witchcraft. I just call it craft. But I do enjoy. I personally get a lot out of material manipulation and manifesting that way.
Witchcraft has a negative connotation, but it doesn't have to necessarily.
Yeah, it's starting to move past that, I think, but it definitely still has that. So I like to call it kind of material manifestation of just, using... instead of just, for example, praying for something to happen, specifically also having like a tactile ritual that you do to kind of help facilitate that. I've always had a hard time with kind of traditional prayer, I guess. I've never been able to focus, and
that's fair.
And I don't know, it
that
always
too.
just feels like I can't focus on it, and I also feel like this is a much more like active way for me to take control over my own spirituality rather than what I always felt like is, hoping that someone else is going to take care of you. It's more, you taking care of yourself. That's just how I do it. So I was doing, this was around, I think this was around this time last year, actually. I was doing some ancestor work, just trying to connect with some past ancestors, specifically some strong women. I needed them in my life at that time, so I was doing that. So I was doing my little ritual, doing my shit, doing my candle stuff, all of that, crystals, the whole shebang. And this massive, massive owl landed on my windowsill, right as the quote-unquote spell essentially was finishing. And it locked eyes with me and sat there for probably about 10 seconds before taking off. Wow. And I told my mom about that the next day. I was like, hey, I was doing this thing. This happened. And she told me this particular story.
Witchcraft is of the devil. I mean, what?
Well,
I don't personally mean
besides
that.
the obvious. Yeah, besides the obvious.
Of course.
Ethnically, I am a good amount Scottish. We specifically from the Johnston clan.
Nice. I'm Matheson clan, actually.
Hell yeah. We went to North Scotland at some point. But one of the prominent elements of the Johnston family crest is a winged spur. So like what you would put on a cowboy shoe.
Okay. Yeah.
And the reason that it has that on that is there's a legend that when John, I cannot pronounce his name, Balliol was the king of Scotland, Edward, king of England, tried to basically force him to, make Scotland a tributary to England. Robert Bruce, very well-known Scottish lord, was very opposed to the scheme. King Edward knew that he was opposed to the scheme and was plotting to kill him, basically. And he was only prevented by doing so because John Balliol actually sent a member of the Johnston clan to warn Robert Bruce. He did not trust that writing down a message would not fall into the wrong hands. So a spur at that point was a very well-known symbol of war, essentially.
Okay.
So what he did was, because he feared a written message would be intercepted by the followers of the English king, what the member of the Johnston clan did instead took to Robert Bruce a spur, which he had tied to a bird's wing. And in some versions of this legend, it's a grouse. In other legends, it's owl wings. He took the hint, Bruce took the hint, he saved himself, he was able to flee in time. When he later became the King of Scotland, he added that to the crest of the Johnston clan as part of the reward for that. Also part of the clan motto is Nunquam non paratus, which means never not prepared in Latin. So when my mom told me that, and I was like, so I was doing ancestor work, and there's a legend of my Scottish ancestors that may or may not involve an owl, and this big ass owl landed right as I was finishing that. So nothing really else happened beyond that, but it was definitely a moment of like, that's real spooky.
That happened.
It was also I live also in Midtown Atlanta. I was at this point, not to dox myself, it's fine, but in the middle of the city, very skyscrapers, etc. So the fact that there was a massive owl just chilling in my front yard was not a common occurrence at that point. They're a little bit more common in the neighborhood that I grew up in now, but at that point they sure were not. So yeah, a little spooky little bird.
Yeah, that's a fun one too.
You would think it would have been a sparrow given my username, but it's no owling. Actually, that's not bad.
Yeah, could be worse.
Yeah, that's not bad. But yeah, spooky little.
I'll help you come up with a better
story.
name. Don't worry, I'm good at names.
Owling.
We know this.
Listen, I think it's great.
Well, that's nice.
But yeah, spooky little witchy owl story.
Awesome. That's a fun one too. I like that.
Yeah.
So I will do another quick piece here. This is... Yeah, I'll do this one. Hotel McDonald and the Headless Horseman. Are you aware of this one?
That's a famous one. I know the Hotel McDonald is just super, super, super haunted. I don't know the specifics of it, but I know it's just like insanely haunted.
Two unfortunate things. Number one, it's not the Hotel California. And
Rip.
Number two, it doesn't look to have a McDonald's in it. Like,
it's like our most favorite. It's like our most famous hotel. Like anytime anyone important comes, they stay at the Hotel McDonald.
The important person hotel.
Yeah.
Is it like MC
It's
or is
Mac.
it MAC? McDonald.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little bit better, but where are the golden arches? Excuse you.
Yeah, I mean, it's got like oxidized copper spires.
Well, here's the thing. Also, if it was Hotel McDonald, you already got clowns built in there, baby. You don't even have to try. You got spooky clowns already. All you have to do is make Ronald McDonald spookier, and you're all good to go.
Ronald McDonald is already spooky enough as it is.
The Hamburglar, but as like... That would be terrifying. Spooky Hamburglar.
McDonald's, we have a
cheese,
proposition.
but spooky? Horror version of... I don't even remember the name of the frickin' like posse.
Grimace. I don't know the name of the group itself, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Here's what it says about the Hotel McDonald and the Headless Horseman. If ever you have booked a room for one, be forewarned. You may not be sleeping alone. Guests and staff alike at the historic hotel have often been startled awake by strange reverberations in the night. Those who have heard the otherworldly rumble say an unseen apparition of a horse-drawn carriage often makes a nightly trip through halls of the top floor. Neat. It looks a little Hogwartsy as well, based on like the architectural style and the
like gothic.
the green rooftops. It's very gothic.
That's really cool.
So maybe it's just like one of Nearly Headless Nick's buddies. They're just
the hotel is just absolutely gorgeous and super, super haunted.
It looks beautiful.
Super
I was going to say
haunted.
buddies. He's part of the Headless Hunt. Remember from book 2? That's like Nick,
I've
you can't
still
actually
not
join.
read the books. I'm sorry.
You honestly like.
I've started the process
JKR, but the
like
books are so
a while
much better
ago.
than the
Oh yeah,
movies.
no. All my homies
Yeah.
hate J.K. Rowling, but like,
Damn it, she's not a good world builder. God damn it.
I still, at least to some degree, depending on the artist, stand for the separation of artists from their art.
I think that's fair, especially like, for example, like I will still partake in Harry Potter culture, but I no longer partake in parts of that culture that contribute back to her wealth. So
Yeah.
I'll buy fan art from artists. I'll buy things secondhand. I've been to Harry Potter World once before, all of the shit came out. So I've got some stuff from there. I don't buy any official stuff anymore because
Yeah.
I just cannot.
And that
justify
sort
it
of
at
thing,
this point.
like, once again, going off on a little tangent, that sort of thing is very much up to just what you feel comfortable with as a person.
Yeah.
I will
And
still
I'm not going to
go...
shit on anyone for like having official merch, of
No.
course. So, but
Danny
it's just a personal
buys
choice for myself.
the
Yeah.
20th anniversary copies of all the books because they look beautiful.
That is really cool.
And then I've been to Wizarding World. It was also before everything came out about JK. But I would go again because it was a fun experience, and Danny hasn't been yet. So like,
It was really cool.
it was so cool.
Did you go before or after the Diagon Alley expansion?
I went after.
Because originally it was just Hogsmeade. Okay, good. Because
Yeah.
I was going to say, originally it was just Hogsmeade.
No, we
so-
did Park Hopper stuff. So, or not Park Hopper, but we got a ticket for one side of the park one day,
yeah.
and then for the other side the next day. And it was all gorgeous. Like, Diagon Alley was super cool.
The dragon's dope.
The twin dragon race roller coaster
Yeah.
on the Hogsmeade side was awesome. So fast, so good.
Yeah.
But
God,
anyway.
It was wild.
We will have dedicated Harry Potter episodes sooner than later. Zarria, next story, please.
All right.
We're just going through... We're getting snapshots of Zarya's life through ghost
Yeah,
stories.
exactly.
I love this.
So when I was around, when I was 7, in 2008, my grandpa,
First of all,
Yeah, I was born in
Baby.
2000 and...
yeah.
Anyway, go on. Yes.
my grandpa, my Guido, he passed away, and he had cancer in his brain, liver, lungs, and stomach, I believe.
Jeez.
Yeah. He had it a couple times before in his brain and in his lungs, but all those times they caught it in time that they could remove it, but this time it was just everywhere.
Too far gone. Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't
That's horrible.
do anything.
I'm sorry, I have to interject real quick. When you said my Guido, I know that it's like my, and then his title was Guido, but there is a planet in Star Wars called My Guido, and that's the first place my brain went. I'm sorry.
Wow,
Well,
Zarria, I can't believe your
It's
grandpa was a
technically
planet.
pronounced Guido, but I called him Gito.
That's cute.
So
yes, go
my
on.
my Gito, he passed away in 2008, and I was 7 at the time, and maybe a week or two after he passed away, I was staying over at my grandma's house. She put me to bed, and I was in her bed, in the side of the bed that he used to sleep on when he was around, and I just absolutely could not fall asleep.
Kept on nudging you in the middle of the night, like, hey, this is my side.
And I just kept tossing and turning, and eventually I look to the doorway, and I just see my Guido standing there, and he was very, very pale and slightly transparent, but I could, like, he was a full apparition. Like, I could 100% see him. And I see him standing in the doorway, and he walks over to the side of the bed that I'm on, and he leaned over and kissed me on the forehead, and then he disappeared. And
What's
I
been
think,
nice
Feel
about...
the kiss.
yeah, and I think that was him saying goodbye to me. Because he absolutely loved me and my sister so much, and I was able to visit him the day he passed, but I wasn't there when he passed because
happened,
I was
yeah.
a child. Like, there's
Yeah.
absolutely no way my family would have allowed me to be in the room when he passed.
Yeah, totally.
And so
really sweet,
that was him saying goodbye.
Yeah.
What I've liked about your stories is that they've all been kind of nice. And this one especially.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because, like, because they are so. I'm trying to like figure out how to say this because I can't verbalize it right now. But like the experiences that I've had have been me stumbling into like like the Catherine Parr thing. It didn't happen because it's me. I stumbled into it. Versus for you,
Zarrias are much more personally
personal.
motivated.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them seem to be happening not necessarily because of you to a certain extent. Like things
But
are
they
happening
wouldn't happen to
you know-
anybody else.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Yeah, it's not necessarily you are causing ghost things to happen. It's that they would not have happened to anyone else but you, which is really cool.
It's interesting.
Zarria is Ghostbuster confirmed.
That'd be kind of sweet. That was a nice one.
Yeah.
I was very much expecting your stories to be similar to like your alien stories. But no, they're quite different from that.
They're touching, they're sweet.
The first one was a little more just kind of, it was still nice, but like it was a little more nonsensical than the rest. Just because of, you know, the nature of like, oh, the oven is going crazy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool, though.
As compared to, you know, your grandfather coming to you in his final moments and saying goodbye.
No, it was a couple weeks after he passed, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Either way.
He came to say goodbye.
Yeah, there's a bit of a tonal difference there in the best of ways.
I don't want to follow that now. God damn.
Yeah. Well, you have to. Go.
Okay. I'm trying to decide which one. Well, first of all, I guess I'll also do a location one kind of really quickly. Savannah, Georgia is the most haunted city in the United States. Lot of creepy shit. It's on the, a lot of people don't realize that the state of Georgia, does in fact have a coastline. We are not landlocked, despite don't let anyone, fucking Florida. Anyways, slander.
All right.
But there's a lot of really cool, history in Savannah. And I've got kind of just like a little blurb of some of the more famous stuff that I'll run through. So there is a house called the Mercer House, which is the home of Jim Williams,
Matthew
who is
Mercer?
a voodoo God, I wish. He was a voodoo practicing antiques dealer.
Oh, wow.
And if you are at all familiar with the story, the novel, and then the movie of the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, he is kind of the main character in that. The home is said to be haunted by the man he allegedly killed in a very heated argument, though he was acquitted in 3 separate trials. There's also Bonaventure Cemetery, which is very spooky. A lot of like Spanish moss, very like southern. It's very Southern Gothic. It's really cool. There's a very famous statue of a girl feeding, I believe she's feeding birds. And it's famous bird statue. Yeah, that's it. And visitors have often reported hearing laughter and conversations, and even a pack of ghost dogs is said to haunt the cemetery and it's a very kind of like the Grimm situation of like guardians of a cemetery, but it's a whole ass pack of dogs. And then there's also a Civil War fort, so a lot of ghosts around there, including some that were apparently seen when the movie Glory was being filmed, because a lot of Glory was filmed in Savannah. Yeah. There's a restaurant called the Pirate's House, which is thought to be some of the inspiration for Treasure Island. It's said to be haunted by a couple of pirate ghosts, including one named Captain Flint.
Yo.
Yeah, and there's also the ghost of Anna Powers, who is supposedly a scorned lover who is a permanent resident in room 204 of the 1790 Hotel in Savannah. So yeah, and they do a lot of really cool ghost tours. So if any of our listeners are ever in the Southeast and looking for some cool ghost shit, Savannah, Georgia is the most haunted city in the United States.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I want to go...
but also, like, a Civil War fort, like, that'll do it.
Oh, yeah. Seriously.
That'll do it right off the bat. That'll do it.
So many deaths.
We got this town... I'm imagining Stefan from SNL. This town has so many things. A haunted Civil War fort. Ghost pirates. Moss.
I definitely want to go down to that area of the States at some point, because also...
You gotta tell me. I'll come visit.
I also really have to try the food in New Orleans area.
Yes!
And in Georgia, for that matter.
Yeah, Southern food is the best.
That'd be sweet. That'd be so sweet.
Yeah, we do some
and I gotta
crazy
go to Nashville
things with meat
as well.
down here. Yeah,
I gotta go for some hot chicken.
Hattie B. If you do Hattie B's, they also have a location here in Atlanta.
I think I've heard of Hattie B's.
Oh, it's good.
And then I gotta try some proper brisket too.
I had I will say one of the things I love about the South, and it's so good, but one of the things I love about, just going on a little mini tangent, one of the things I love about the South is it's really interesting culinary wise, because there's a huge amount of fusion stuff that happens here. For example, the other day I had a smoked brisket banh mi. Are you freaking kidding me? It was amazing. It was so good.
That sounds awesome.
Probably one of the best things I've ever had in my life.
Did it still have like the pickled carrots and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. It was just they subbed out the meat with smoked brisket.
That sounds
it was so
good.
Yeah, and I think they did like the onion were Georgia Vidalia onions, which are much sweeter. They get a little less sweet when you pickle them, but they're delicious.
Yeah.
You can actually eat Vidalia onions like an apple. Yeah. Without being, insane.
I already had dinner, but I'm hungry again.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Gosh,
yeah,
dang
Southern
it.
food really can't be beat.
I gotta do.
It's so good. It's soul food.
It is.
It doesn't just nourish your body, it nourishes
your soul. It does something to the soul.
Yeah.
And then also to the arteries a lot of the time. But
it is the carbs and the sheer amount of butter usually, but makes you feel good.
Oh yeah. Except for like 6 hours later when your stomach feels like a brick.
No, that's fair.
But
we got ghosts, we got brisket. That's what we got. Come to Georgia, we got ghosts and brisket.
I have to hear what the Georgian type of Southern accent is like these days so that I could do that line in that accent.
Yeah. I'll have to, because I obviously don't speak with a Southern accent.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are both from... yeah, I know. Wild. I have a lot of Southern mannerisms, but even growing up in Atlanta, a lot of people don't have traditional Southern accents, and my parents are both from the Northeast, so, But I'll say y'all. One of the best things to come out of the South is y'all.
Y'all means all. I remember seeing that in the newest Queer Eye season.
Oh, yeah. Y'alternative, one of my favorites. Southern and goth.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Y'alternative. Yeah.
Like an Avenged Sevenfold
Yollywood?
t-shirt
We're also called
with cowboy
Yollywood.
boots
Yeah,
and
because we got so much
spurs.
filming.
Oh, yeah. Georgia is a hub, especially for TV.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But okay. I think we have time for one more each, if that's all right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually we can have a follow-up. But I will go over one
Ghosts
more here.
Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Hey.
I'll go.
All right, so this is the Princess Theater and the Embittered Bride. Built in 1915, this vintage cinema is one of the oldest theaters in Canada. A scorned spirit is said to haunt the building. According to legend, a bride who hung herself in her wedding dress in the rooming house in the 20s still wanders the darkest reaches of the theater. Still garbed in white, her shadowy figure has been seen wandering through the lobby and down the grand staircase, or hovering over the projection room. I feel like I've heard either this one or one extremely similar before.
I feel like there are a lot of
there are a lot of theater ghosts.
There are a lot of theaters are so. My next story is about they're so fucking haunted.
Totally.
Also, a lot of ghost brides, just generally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Justice for ghost women.
Post-mortem justice.
This is International Women's Month. This is Women's History Month. God damn it, justice for ghost ladies.
Seriously. I just smacked my mic real hard.
Good job.
Whoops.
Have fun editing that.
I know. But, let's see. Did it come through? Maybe, but not really, because NVIDIA Broadcast. Shout out NVIDIA Broadcast.
Noise. Please sponsor us.
God, please? If I could get a sponsorship from NVIDIA, my life would be complete. I wouldn't...
Pretty dope.
I could afford a 3090.
Oh, shit.
Like, I could get a 3090, let alone afford it.
Yeah.
Okay, Zarria, what you got?
All right.
Send us out with a bang.
This one is...
Or with a
also, this one is also one of my best ones. The last two that I had aren't as good, but this one is also a really good one. So, on my mom's side, my mom was adopted, but this ghost is actually related to her adoptive family. So I don't know why she chose to reveal herself to me. So we're not blood. But
the blood of the covenant is stronger than the water of the womb, baby!
Oh, all right. Thanks, Louis Armstrong.
I'm saying, family is family. It doesn't matter if you're blood or not.
Vin Diesel
family.
can tell you that much too.
So this this one
Fast and the
actually
Furious ghost
passed
stories.
far before I was even born.
Wow.
She's like a distant cousin of my grandma on my mom's side, my mom's adoptive mom, or something like that. And her name was Annabelle. I know,
Like the doll?
That's where my
I
brain
know
went.
that's what everyone thinks of
No,
when
no.
someone says there's a ghost named Annabelle. But no, I also know her last name, but I'm not gonna mention her
That's
last
fair.
name on the podcast too.
Yep.
No, that's
Because
super fair.
that doesn't seem like just dox my family.
Yeah, no, that is highly unsafe.
I just gave my full ass location. You're fine.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, so I was probably around maybe like 14, 15, and I was like trying to go to sleep, and I had a very similar feeling to when I saw my grandpa, that very unsettled, like there's someone else there kind of feeling, even though you know perfectly well that you're alone. And
Do you though?
so I laid down, head on the pillow, and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I see, it's like I'm standing out in the hallway, but I can feel my body in my bed, but everything I'm seeing is like
Just a full out of body experience.
the hallway. And
Damn.
so in front of me, I see this girl who looked to be my age, and there was no color in her eyes. She had red hair, and it was all like knotted and messy, and it had like sticks and twigs in it, and she was wearing a white nightgown, and she had a little bit of blood on the side of her face and on her nightgown. And I opened my eyes so fucking quick.
Yeah.
And I got straight out of bed, and I went out into the hallway, and I started fully
Bitch, where are
crying.
you? Yeah.
No, just sobbing. Like,
Jesus,
because
yeah.
it absolutely terrified me.
Sure.
Yeah. And you said you were what, 14, 15?
Yeah.
That's young too. Like,
Yeah.
My
So
God.
I eventually calmed down, and my parents always get like super mad at me if I wake them up. But I was like, no, I really have to wake up my parents, because
there was a dead girl in this hallway. You need to wake up.
I was terrified.
Yeah.
So my parents always lock their door. So
For precisely this reason.
So I was like knocking on the door, and I wait for them to come and open the door, and I come in and I sit on the bed with them, and I tell them what happened, and they calm me down, and they told me like, she's not here to hurt you, like she just knows that you can see her, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
bitch, you have the sight, clearly.
Seriously.
So they
Damn.
managed to calm me down, and I went back to my room, and as soon as I entered my room, I said into the emptiness of my room, I'm sorry I left like that. You just scared me a little. So I went back to my bed, I laid down exact same as before, and again, as soon as I closed my eyes, it was like I was standing out in the hallway again, but I could feel my body in the bed. But what I was seeing was like as if I was standing in the hallway. And I see her in front of me again, but this time she had color in her eyes. She wasn't quite as pale. Her hair was all neat. There wasn't any blood, and she was smiling at me. And then just as suddenly,
herself less scary for you.
just as suddenly as I was out there, I was back in my bed, just black, because my eyes were closed, just like what you usually see when your eyes are closed, I guess.
Yeah.
And
the weird fireworks.
I told my grandma about it, and she's like, well, that sounds like this relative when she was younger. And she told me that that relative had a twin that passed away as a baby. And
wow. How old was the ghost, would you estimate?
I believe it was the same ghost that passed away as a baby. She just aged herself up
Gotcha.
Appear to me as like my own age, you know?
Right.
Gotcha.
Something that'd be a little more recognizable, probably less jarring.
Yeah.
Also, I was to say a lot less creepy than just like a baby in the hallway.
Yeah. A dead baby in the hallway? No, I would have been inconsolable.
No.
Like, it would have been so much more horrifying for me.
Yeah.
If she hadn't, like,
whose
appeared
baby
to
is
me
this?
as, like, my own age. But I told my grandma about it, and she's like, well, that sounds like this person when she was young. And, I found out that, that distant cousin had a twin, that passed away of some illness as a baby. And, for some reason, she appeared to me. And every once in a while after that, I would feel her around, and she would just hang out around the house. I think my sister saw her once or twice as well. And we kind of thought that, since she passed away as a baby, maybe she just wanted a family to grow up with and, to experience that, or something like that.
Yeah, that's sweet.
So, yeah.
Do you do tarot at all?
I do, yeah.
I was gonna say,
my mom taught me.
Good. I was like, that's crazy, because that's some cool communication skills, because you clearly got something going on.
Yeah.
It's such fascinating stuff, especially for me, someone who never grew up being exposed to that kind of stuff. Just like, it's a whole different realm to me.
Yeah, so the living twin, my grandma actually told her about, like, how I saw her passed away twin.
What you assume to be, yeah.
And, my grandma told me that when she told her, she was really relieved to know that she was around and keeping an eye on everyone, and
that's so sweet.
That we were able to see her. And so every year when we visit my grandpa's grave, we will also, because it's at the same grave site, we'll also go and put a flower on her grave as well. And
that's awesome. Oh.
That's a
I don't want to
very
follow
cool
that
one.
either. God damn it, Zarria. Why are you doing this to me?
I told you I had really good. I told you I had really good ones.
I didn't think they were going to be good
the order
like
we are
this.
going in.
Again, I thought they were going to be either genuinely spooky or ridiculous.
Yeah, how dare you come in here with your heartwarming and heartfelt ghost stories? My God.
No, those were great, though.
Those were great, yeah. Well, it is really cool how personal they are.
Mm-hmm. Not a ton of people can say that they have deeply personal ghost stories like that.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of there's this kind of theory around why humans have paranormal experiences in the first place. And it's a very scientific theory behind it. And one of the theories is that it's actually an it's an evolutionary instinct of discomfort in an unsafe space physically. So a lot of places that are deeply haunted, especially locationally, so not necessarily like with Zarria, clearly you've got some stuff that's tied like to you. But more so of the stuff
if
that's
you go
really
to like a
tied,
haunted asylum or
it's tied to like buildings, places, stuff like that. Usually, the barometric pressure is very different than it is in the surrounding areas. There's something going on pressure-wise. And very often basically the theory is that humans experience these incredibly deep physical feelings of extreme discomfort because of what's going on with the barometric pressure, airflow, whatever. And because we are humans and we will always seek to find reason or explanation for things that we don't understand, that deep discomfort and fear and just general feeling gross
bad
about things gets explained as this is a haunted building. And I just think that's so fascinating.
It is. It brings
it's
up
crazy.
the question of why the barometric pressure is different in those places.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's wild.
One thing that I try to tell people a lot of the time is that, like, even as a religious person, I also believe in science. Like, it's an unfortunately disconnected, like, very commonly disconnected thing. It's so strange.
Yeah, two things can be true.
Exactly. But, like, I
also bold of people who believe in religion but not in like science, etc. Of like, you think so? Let me get this straight. And just not going to go on tangent, but bold of you to assume that an all-powerful, all-knowing God wouldn't also know how to orchestrate evolution and cells.
Absolutely.
Like,
it's just because it wasn't said explicitly, so it couldn't.
Yeah, just because it wasn't said
case.
explicitly doesn't mean
but,
God made dinosaurs. You heard it here first.
Their bones exist.
That's the merch sticker from this episode. God made dinosaurs.
I'm sure something like that already exists, let's be honest.
I want to do a series of stickers of like all of Zarria's ghosts.
Oh man, that'd be something
Zarria,
else.
if you're okay with it, but like you as like a ghost type Pokemon trainer.
Yo. Okay, Zarria being a ghost type trainer though, these stories aside,
this backs it
would
up.
actually be pretty sick. I'd be down for that fan art.
I'm gonna draw us all as Pokemon trainers.
Yeah, someone get on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I find the idea of religion and science being separate to be stupid and narrow-minded on either end, whether you don't believe in religion but do in science or vice versa. But then, I don't know, like, I find it fascinating that part of learning about one's faith would also come into learning about science. Because I love space. I've said this before, but I love space. Space is so cool. I am completely on board with Markiplier in that sense. Space is cool. Yeah. The more that I can learn about space.
Yeah, and I think for me, and one of the reasons I don't say, like, even though I don't believe in the Christian God or in just generally a monotheistic God, I don't say that I'm atheist. Mm-hmm. And I specifically don't say that I'm atheist because I personally am not arrogant enough to believe that I can definitively say there is no God.
True.
Do I think there is? Probably not, in my opinion. But we also don't know enough to be able to say definitively there are or there are not paranormal creatures, deities,
we just
ghosts,
don't know,
fairies. We just don't know, and I am not comfortable with definitively saying like this thing doesn't exist. Is it something that I want to necessarily dedicate worship to? No. But is it something that I'm going to refute exists when we have no proof that it doesn't? We also don't have proof that it does, but we certainly don't have proof that it doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I don't personally call myself an atheist, because I'm like, we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know enough to say God doesn't exist or God's dead. So that's just me though.
Tangentially from that, I always find the phrase of God is dead kind of funny in a certain sense, and I can't totally put my finger on why.
Where is his body? Where's the corpse? Show me the God carcass. I want to see it.
How big would that be?
Huge.
I mean, based
What
on
if
the
the
usual
planet is
interpretation.
actually God's carcass?
Okay, funny you mentioned that. In Bionicle, the planet where everything takes place is actually just a shell for the god creature of that universe's robot body.
God.
I'm
It's
not
just
even
an
kidding.
egg. It's just an egg.
Not quite an egg, but
No, we're living on an egg.
or no, the body crash landed on an existing planet, and then it formed land masses on top of itself to cloak itself. Anyway,
Crazy.
that's for the Bionicle episode. But
Write that down. Write that down. Write that down.
write that down. Okay, finish us out with your final story, Sparrow.
Cool. So this is actually not about ghosts, but it is about a theater and ghost tours. So I work at a theater that happens to do a lot of Shakespeare. I did my apprenticeship there. We love it very much. Hopefully I'm not doxing myself by saying that, but whatever, it's fine. It is one of the older theaters in Atlanta, and we were actually reached out to by the Historical Society because they wanted to do a ghost tour for one of their summer camps. And we said, absolutely. We had actors trained to do these ghost tours. We do actually have a number of ghost stories at the theater, which I'll go into in a minute. But basically what ended up happening, I was actually doing my internship there working with the acting summer camps, and the camps from the Historical Society rolled up. It was like 30 kids, give or take. And there had been a scheduling misstep where the ghost tour guides had been told it was 3 days later. So they were not there when the kids all showed up.
Oh boy.
So what? Yeah.
Logistics.
So what ended up happening was because I was already very familiar with giving a tour of the theater because we always start the summer camps with a tour of the theater. So what ended up happening was me and the other intern. I did the tour of the theater, and the other intern was on her phone with ghoststories.com pulled up. And we were fully lying to children. Fully lying to children. Because we had to do something.
Yeah.
But then we did end up getting, one of the actors who was trained was able to actually get there on time and did actually tell us some really cool stories. Like, there was a performance of Macbeth, which I am saying because we are not in a theater.
We are not in a
so
theater.
It's okay to say we're not in a theater.
We're in the
Scottish
theater
play.
of the mind, but that doesn't count.
Mackers, McBee, all of that.
McDonald's.
There was and of course, a couple of these are really funny because, some people are like, okay, well, it was just the actor covering up for, like, missing their cue. But there was one story of, like, doing a production of Macbeth where an actor saw an actual ghost standing in the doorframe of the entrance that they were supposed to go to, like, to get on stage, and obviously did not walk through the ghost, so they were late to their cue. We've had... during combat scenes, and I think this might have... No, it can't have been during Macbeth, because it was rapier, and we always do broadsword for Mackers. But it was during one of the, like, rapier...
Wait. When you say rapier and broadsword, do you mean the actual bladed weapons?
Yes. I have combat training. All of our broadswords, actually, most of our weapons are actually named after Shakespearean heroines.
Sparrow.
So my favorite is we have a bastard sword named Beatrice, and it's my favorite.
Sparrow. How have you not shared
so
this
loud.
with me before?
I also think that this is insanely cool.
That's so
Yeah, no,
cool.
I mean that was part of our apprenticeship.
Sparrow,
you
combat
do the acting
training.
but also combat training. Yeah.
I want...
Well, the funny thing is, so I actually took fencing in college, and when we were taking our stage combat stuff, so obviously the whole point of, like, fencing is to not get hit and hit the other person. And with stage combat, it's completely against everything you learn in actual fencing because you are trying to get hit in the safe space, and you're trying to be as theatrical as possible.
Yeah.
But we had an incident during one of the rapier fights, and this was during a performance, where the blades met and one of them shattered the blade.
Oh,
like
no.
we had the show had to stop because shrapnel flew into the audience. Yeah, it was a whole, like, no one was hurt, thankfully, but, like, I think we also have like a ghost cat in the women's dressing room, which has been known to just, knock shit off.
Well, yeah, it's a cat.
Yeah, it's a cat. Exactly, it's a cat.
Well, ghost people will also do that just to get
ghost
attention.
people will also do that.
It makes a ton more sense with a ghost cat, though.
Yeah. We should just do an episode where I just talk about my combat training just for Caleb.
Please.
But yeah, no, I mean, we've done, I haven't done it in a couple of years. I would love to get a refresher, but I do have, and I will say this is obviously stage combat training, not actual combat training.
Yeah.
But we did rapier and dagger. I've done small sword. We've done regular dagger, hand to hand, broadsword, bastard sword. Haven't done longsword, quarterstaff, whip, stuff like that. And it's really cool.
That's my quarterstaff sitting back there.
Hell yeah.
Actually doing kung fu. So a little bit different, but still.
Still really cool. But theaters are super haunted.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you should also support the arts, everybody.
Absolutely.
Go see a show. Go see a COVID-friendly, COVID-safe show.
And currently, support Ukrainian artists.
Yes, support Ukrainian artists.
And honestly, I don't think there's much opportunity, but support Russian artists who are against the war too, please, because they're also going to suffer unnecessarily because of...
Especially Russian expats. They know what's going on. They left for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, it might not necessarily be the reason of certain political leader is insane, but, not a bad,
they left for a reason.
Not a bad call.
Yeah.
Yeah, just...
Yeah, if you take away two things from this episode, support the arts and ghosts are hella cool.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And Zarria sees spirits.
Yeah, and also Zarria can talk to ghosts, which is dope as hell.
Well, I've never had a conversation with one.
Episode?
I've just seen them.
Okay, but could we do a seance episode? Because Neptune would be hella into that.
I will say that I'm not sure how into it Danny and I would be, because we're a little cautious about those things.
That's fair. This will be for elevated consensus. We're just gonna do a seance.
There will be a panel.
In the Airbnb.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That also just makes me think of DashCon, the Tumblr convention with the ball pit with pee.
But spookier.
But in this case, we don't even get the convention center. We just rent out a couple of rooms in the hotel.
We don't even get a ballroom.
No, absolutely
We just get two... What are the rooms that have the door so it's like an ensuite?
I don't know.
Between them?
It's two hotel rooms that are connected?
Yeah. We just get a bunch of those. We just rent out one side of one floor.
And we just hanging in front of the elevator.
We do the whole thing in a freight elevator.
Okay, and then we just we block off all the floors, or we keep just pressing buttons to make sure that we're always in the elevator.
I think what would be very good is the elevator still functions as normal. We're just also recording a podcast in it, so anyone who uses the elevator is welcome to use the elevator.
Just every once in a while,
they're just also going to be part of the podcast.
Someone will come in with a pallet
We just have
full
a
of
sign
stuff.
up in the elevator, just being we're recording in here. If you come in, you're going to be in the podcast.
We'll just
welcome to
We'll
elevator.
go quiet for a few
nonsense.
seconds as the doors open. Hey, how's it going?
And then just a very soft, third floor home furnishings.
But before we take things for too long, let's finish up here. So thank you everybody so much for listening to today's episode. Awesome stories for today. Thank you Zarria and Sparrow for those. If you enjoy what you hear today, as usual, please join our Discord, subscribe to our Patreon, follow and subscribe to our respective social medias so you can keep up with everything that we do and say. And give us your money.
Give us your money.
Give us your money.
We will always find a way to take your money.
Absolutely.
If any of our stories struck a chord with you, give us your money.
Tip Zarria
Yeah.
for her ghost trauma.
All right, but yeah, we will see you next episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.